God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you all had a fantastic weekend. I'm looking forward to covering the events of this week with you. Let's get started. This headline caught my eye today from the New York Post. Congressman suggests Second Amendment as means of opposing Trump. That just sounds like a weird sentence because you know, based on what this is, that it's going to be a leftist that's saying these words. That means that a leftist is getting on board with the Second Amendment for the sake of opposing President Trump. Now, this is something that right-leaning commentators have been pointing out in the recent weeks, especially in light of the Parkland school shooting. You know, the same people that were saying Donald Trump is Hitler, Donald Trump is a Nazi, Donald Trump is evil, we need to impeach Donald Trump, were simultaneously saying the government needs to take away all of the guns. But this congressman seems to be suggesting that the Second Amendment is in place to oppose governments. Let's have a look at what he's quoted as saying. Here it is. It's really a matter of putting public pressure on the president. Suozzi, I'm going to assume that's his name, Suozzi said in a newly released video of the March 12 talk in Huntington. This is where the Second Amendment comes in, quite frankly, because, you know, what if the president was to ignore the courts? What would you do? What would we do? And naturally, some people on the right are saying that this is a disturbing statement. This is not a good thing to say. National Republican Campaign Committee spokesman Chris Martin said the video is incredibly disturbing. It's surreal to watch a sitting member of Congress suggest that his constituents should take up arms against the President of the United States. And if you're like me, I bet the first thing that you thought when you saw these words was when Donald Trump said something vaguely similar back in 2016 on the campaign trail. This from August 9th. The New York Times reported or quoted Trump as saying, "If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is. I don't know." I think that I watched this speech. All of Trump's campaign speeches were streamed to YouTube, and I got to watch a few of them. I can't remember if I got to watch this one or not, but I remember this event happening. And Democrats called this statement disturbing. You can see there in the paragraph just below that some of them were doing just that. But I want to talk about the Second Amendment today. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about the Second Amendment. That's what these stories are about. Last week, you might remember, if I remember to do so, I'll link the video that I'm talking about in the description. Last week, we talked about the Second Amendment as a force for protecting life. We talked about the right to keep and bear arms as being necessary to enshrine the right to life. And I mentioned in that video that the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms are in place to protect liberty as well. The right to keep and bear arms is all about protecting life, liberty, and property. And we're going to talk about property a little bit in today's video, but the place where people get the most whipped up in talking about the right to bear arms, it comes into play when we're talking about life and liberty. When it comes to property, for the most part, people don't associate the right to bear arms with the right to own property. But let's talk about the right to bear arms and in regards to the right to liberty. The first line of the Second Amendment, the one that liberals get confused about all the time, says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state." The security of a free state. Now, hang on with me. We're going to dive deep into this, especially in regards to liberty. What does it mean What does the word secure mean, or what does it mean for something to be secure? The first thing that you would think of when you think about security, thinking about security in the sense that we use it today, you would think about guards that are keeping people from getting into areas that they're not supposed to be in. That's the first thing that pops into mind. The guys that wear the black shirt that have the yellow word security on the back. They're the bouncers at the nightclub. They're the guys that stand outside the sports arenas. They're the guys that stand at the entrance into your seating area at the music concert. Security, in its most obvious form, means protecting the integrity of a border of some kind. This is an area that people outside are not allowed to come in. So this is the first meaning of the security of a free state. A well-regulated militia is necessary to preserve the integrity of the boundaries of a free state, the sovereignty of a free state, protecting a free state from being infringed from the outside. We could make an analogy to property when we're talking about a free state. Secure property can't be stolen. If I secure some cash in an investment, and I want to talk about investments because I'm going to use that as another example here in a moment. If I secure some cash in an investment, then the first thing that I think of when I think of my cash being secure is that it can't be stolen. If my money is with an investment company and they tell me that my money is secure, I assume that it's not going to be stolen from me, that somebody's not going to be able to get into my account and take my money away from me by proxy of taking it away from the people that are holding it for me. But what's another sense of security? Are there any other senses of security? I happen to think that there would be one. We could go back to the analogy of a security guard. What's another thing that a security guard is supposed to do at a public event, like a ball game or a concert? They're supposed to keep the people inside the arena, the people that are supposed to be in there. They're supposed to keep them in an orderly fashion. If a fight breaks out, security goes into the crowd to stop the fight. If they have to, they eject the people that are fighting, whatever they have to do to stop the fight. We could talk about property, the investment of money into an investment account. Being in a secure investment means that your cash is not likely to be lost in trading. There are some unsecure investments. Sometimes this is called venture capitalism. When you go into a place where there's a lot of risk involved in investing your money, but there's also a lot of reward involved if the investment pans out. So a free state also needs to be secure in this way. So a free state, first of all, needs to be secure in terms of its sovereignty. An invading force can't be allowed to come into a free state and overtake it, otherwise it wouldn't be a free state anymore. A free state also needs to be secure against internal threats to liberty. A free state needs to be protected from self-destruction, tyranny, to put it in another way. The Second Amendment secures a free state against outside infringement and self-destruction. In other words, Trump in August of 2016 and Swozy last week both raise a valid point that is criminally undertaught in our society if the thought of warring against a tyrannical government is disturbing. The very first thing that the United States of America did as a country was go to war against a tyrannical government. A tyrannical, not just a tyrannical government, but a force that sought to bring the country that was calling itself the independent United States of America under its heel. This was if you think about the United States of America as they signed the Declaration of Independence, that was the establishment of the United States of America as a free and sovereign state. And of course, from the perspective of the British government, this is a member of the British government that is saying we're no longer a part of the British government. And so naturally, what does a government do if one of its member states is going to leave? Well, an effort is going to be made to bring that member state back in to the government because, of course, a government that has more subjects is stronger than a government that has less. So the British government went to war with the United States of America. They sought to force the United States of America back into the British Empire. And that was the American government fighting against another government that was trying to come in and infringe on the sovereignty of this new state. Whether or not you think that the United States of America had a right to break away from the British government, it wanted to do so. It did do so with the Declaration of Independence. Whether or not the United States of America was a legitimate government at the time of breaking away, the people were being subjected to a government in which they did not want to participate. And that's by definition oppressment. That seems like it's not a word. Oppressive, tyrannical. And so the United States of America went to war against a tyrannical government. And we have commentators today that think that saying we ought to preserve the Second Amendment so that we have the right to go to war against a tyrannical government. There are mainstream commentators that think that is a disturbing thought, that think going to war against an oppressive force is a disturbing thought. Now, obviously, in the United States of America, even under Barack Obama, we have it much better off in terms of participating in our government and being free to do as we please than the colonies did in the time that they broke away from the British Empire. There are many more safeguards in place that protect our liberties and protect our freedoms now than there were in the times of the colonies. And even though governments of the past, government entities of the present continue to attempt to oppress people and succeed in some instances, there is still much more freedom in this country than there was in the past. I think that's the only reason that a revolution hasn't happened yet, is because people are still free for 90% of the time to do whatever they please. If there were to come a time that the government were to say there's this vast swath of choices that you're no longer allowed to make, there's all of these things that you're going to have to do, there's all of these tributes that you're going to have to pay, that would get us more down the road to a revolution. I certainly don't think that Barack Obama was a president that we needed to revolt against. I don't think that President Donald Trump is a president that we need to revolt against. But the Second Amendment is in place so that that option is available. If a people are to feel that they are oppressed to the point that they need to take up arms in defense of themselves, that's what the Second Amendment is for. First and foremost, the Second Amendment says nothing about the preservation of life. I was talking about that as an extension of the preservation of life. The Second Amendment is written almost as if preservation of life is a given, that everyone should assume that you ought to be able to bear arms to preserve life. The government, the governing document that is supposed to govern over the federal government, was written to give the people that are supposed to be governed by the Constitution the right to protect the freedom of the state in which they were going to participate through violent force. The security of the free state was supposed to be protected by violent force, and I believe that is to say the security from outside threats as well as secure against threats from within. That's going to do it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. If you want to see more content like this, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We'll be doing new reports every weekday, so far without fail. I've been noticing that I have a problem with scheduling uploads. Maybe YouTube just doesn't allow you to schedule to have two uploads scheduled, not to go live at the same time, but just to have two scheduled uploads at the same time. I was trying to schedule videos to go up. One would go up, and then 30 minutes later, another one would go up, and I tried to schedule those two things together, and that wasn't happening. So that's one of the reasons why some of the uploads last week didn't go the way that I wanted them to go. But I thank you for your patience in allowing that to play through, allowing me to learn from that. I hope that you still enjoy this content. I hope that you'll come back and join me next time. Until then,